Hey, Booze. Welcome to episode 27 of the Young Monarchs podcast. Thank you for everybody tuning in. Shout out to all the first time listeners, day ones, everybody in between. I'm super thankful that we've gotten to episode 27 because at episode 1, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this. Today, I'm joined by Sephora of Sephora's Counter. She is a 29-year-old mental health advocate from Queens, New York. And I am super excited that you are on this episode. I've been following you on Instagram for a while, probably like a year or two, something like that.
Oh,
And
wow.
I just love your content. I love your stories. I definitely check out your page for anything dealing with like just life in general, like how to think things through, how to be positive, how to keep going. So I love your platform. If you want to tell people a little bit about yourself and how your journey been so far, we can jump into the episode.
Okay. So hi guys, I'm Sephora. Yeah, I've been a mental health advocate, I think, like ever since I was like diagnosed with clinical depression and severe anxiety. It's something that really like kind of like shaped my life in a way. And then I worked in a field which like I started modeling when I was 16. I worked in a field that's not too friendly as to people's mental health. They're like, it's very like a cutthroat industry, and um I had to find a way to like navigate through that. And then I kind of fell into influencing because I started transitioning in my journey in modeling. And then it was like I'd go to castings and people would say like, what's on your head? Like when I was transitioning, like what's on your head? And that kind of like wreaked havoc on like
When
my
you're transitioning like your hair?
yeah, to natural, like to my natural curls. Yeah. And like mostly when I started modeling, it wasn't as open as it is now.
Yeah.
If you're not blonde hair, blue eyes, and you're 5'10" or taller, like you're really considered different. But um, I started transitioning more so because I felt like I didn't like myself.
Mm.
So I really wanted to kind of just find myself. So like that means loving all parts of me, like loving every single part of me. And that was a very hard journey.
Yeah.
Like it took many years to really like grow, and continuous growing happens all throughout life, but you never stop growing.
Yeah.
But really growing and owning who you are is something that's really like life changing.
Yeah.
Like it really transforms you. So yeah.
I'm super excited about this episode because I feel like in a lot of ways, like we're very similar in just like wanting to go for the things that we want in life, but at the same time having that voice in the back of our head when people say things like what's on your head, it'd be like, what do you mean what's on my head? Like, and then it just kind of
this grows out of my scalp.
right.
Yeah.
And kind of we have to like pull ourselves away from like going on spirals. Sometimes I find myself doing that just to try to like stay focused and stay positive, because we know like that's the only way that we're really going to grow to be who we desire to be. So
yeah, you have
like
to be on top of your episodes. Like you have to be on top. Like you can feel when it's coming on. Like you have to really like, you know what? Like I'm feeling this heaviness. I'm feeling this like I'm not in my best emotional and mental state. That I need to like really like recollect myself and really like, not stretch myself so thin that I feel this way.
Right.
So yeah.
So today's episode, I guess we can go ahead and get into the boss shit episode where we kind of shout out women who are doing amazing things. And I just wanted to, for this episode, just shout out any woman who does go through anxiety and depression because it is a major thing. And for women to constantly overcome and constantly grow in a positive way, like that is not easy to do. But you see women who you look towards, like when I go to look at your content, how
Oh,
like you just have to kind of push yourself out of it and know like this will end, like this time period, this current feeling like is going to be over and I'm going to feel
everything's
better
temporary.
afterwards. Right. So this
Yep.
episode is all about pretty much how anxiety and depression affects all types of relationships in our lives, from friendships, family, intimate relationships. Um, and it's completely kind of like your platform to be this mental health advocate. So we have lots of fun stuff to talk about and just kind of for people listening to learn more about anxiety and depression if you don't personally go through those struggles, but you may know somebody who does or you think you do, or just in general to know that everybody goes through different things and everybody has hurdles and things that they have to jump over, but just being like self-aware to know that you are no different from anyone else and we all experience things, and at the end of the day the more like positive we are to people around us, even if it's like the hobo on the street just saying hello, if you just smile and say hello, how all these little things can really affect people's lives in a positive way even if you may not think it will. So I know to start off I kind of wanted to get your opinion on, well, like what would you consider like depression and anxiety, the difference in the two?
Okay, so with depression goes in like stages and fluctuates and things like that. It's like this heavy feeling of
Yeah.
like worthlessness. Um, I come from a Caribbean family. Like my family came from Belize. I'm a first generation American. And mental health is not something that we really like spoke about, or
Yeah.
things like that. Like they didn't really know what it was. And like when I was young, it was a thing like, oh, like she's always like, like some I thought something was wrong with me, like I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't normal or things like that. And later I grew to find out like that's what I had, like like being more educated and just learning about it through therapy and going to different doctors and things like
Yeah.
that. I learned that's what I had. And like I made it my business to really like make sure that my family was involved in my therapy,
Yeah.
because it was something that I really had to navigate through. I lost a parent 4 days before my birthday, before my 22nd birthday, like my papa.
Mm-hmm.
I lost him when I was young, and he like raised me since I was a kid and things like that. And that really like impacted my life, like
Oh yeah.
losing him. And when I was 18, my cousin was killed. And these things like really like triggered
Oh yeah.
these the depression. Like it triggered it for like, it was like long periods of time. Like everyone gets depressed,
Yeah.
like these are regular emotions that people experience. Like people get anxious, people get depressed, but it's when it happens like long periods of time, and there's like that whole spiraling thing that we were speaking about before. It's when it spirals and you don't really know what to do. And that's when it's time to really like speak to someone
Oh yeah.
who knows about these things. Like
Yeah.
it's time to speak to somebody. I like you experience really really dark times, you have no motivation to like
Yeah.
do anything. And it's something that's really hard because like you're trying to navigate through your emotions and your
Oh yeah.
feelings, and you have all these other things to do. Like life doesn't stop.
Right.
And actually, I actually think that a lot of people are understanding what mental health really is, especially during this climate, like
Mm-hmm.
during this time, especially like dealing with, you know, the coronavirus and stuff like that. I feel like people are actually having like a first-hand look in like what people that deal with mental illnesses
Oh yeah.
experience like in their everyday lives. You know, like it's not all the time that we're sad, or you know, like that's not always what it happens. Sometimes we mask it. I was very good at masking it. Like people around me really didn't know,
Yeah.
except the people that lived in my house. um you know, like because I've always been a person that like kind of like trucked through things. Like I just like constantly kept going and going and going, and I burned
Yeah.
myself out. I suffered from severe like nervous breakdowns and things like that. And it wasn't healthy. And it's like this whole thing that Black women should be so strong, and you know, like we don't feel or things like
Right.
that. It's like, no, you need to take care of what's in here, like
Oh
that
yeah.
has to really be something that you really take care of, because you cannot pour from empty cup. That may be a cliche saying, but it's so true. Like you cannot pour from a empty cup. You can't exert yourself too much, overexert yourself. Like that's not
Mm-hmm.
something that's healthy. And it's like with dealing with anxiety, also like on top of depression, it's something that kind of like they both fought with each other.
Oh yeah.
And so it was like I'm depressed, and like I feel worthless, so I need to do this. So I used to like do so many different things and then burn out.
Oh
And then
yeah.
it was just like it was like a constant cycle. um and my family was really against like me going on medication and things like that. And I was against it too, because I was scared what other people might think of me. But you know, like it actually like helped a lot, like
Yeah.
just making sure that I have it under control. And you know, dealing with just dealing with like the episodes, like they're not
Yeah.
as severe, you know, like just things like that.
Oh yeah. Because I know when you said about like Black women, the standard of like Black women are strong and we have to like continue working, like constantly going. I know I I never I was always like, I'm just always been a very sensitive child growing up, and getting into going into college and experiencing something different. I never really understood what like anxiety was really until I was in I was dating a guy in college to where we just argued like for no reason. Like there was
Okay.
like somebody like blowing your phone up, call, and I'm just what is going on? Like what is this? Text messages and arguing. And for me to already have been sensitive and then to have like those things happening at the same time, I feel like it developed a lot of anxiety in me,
Mhm.
because I can say like up until my senior year of college, I personally never really got anxious. I never really had like fluctuations in my emotions. But that particular instance with him lasted maybe off and on for like 2 years of college. And by the time I was out of college, I was extremely anxious. I became like very defensive. I became very like, if you say something to me, I automatically have to say something back to you, because that was like,
That's how you protect yourself.
that's how I protected myself in those situations. And it kind of opened up my eyes to things that were happening around me. It kind of made me like think back to high school, to the friends that I had or the people that I knew, to where I never really understood like why they always seemed sad or why they were always down. But when I got to my senior year of college, it made so much sense. Like, um, I had friends in high school who, just would be down for so long, and talk like seeing them on Facebook now and actually openly talking about it, I'm like, okay, that makes so much sense. Like now I understand, like I understand exactly how you feel. I understand exactly what you mean when you say like life is still going on, but you just can't do it like right now. You don't want to get up and go to work. You don't want to go to school or do anything like that. And I find myself trying to like calm myself down when it comes to like working, and especially like working on something like Young Monarchs where I am the only person working on it. So I have to make sure things get done. I definitely burn out. There's definitely days where I'll go to sleep at like, I'll fall asleep at like 6 p.m. and won't wake up to the next day at like 12 or 1 in the afternoon. And me just not understand, like, why did I just sleep for like 15, 14 hours? And it just me being like completely burnt out. And
Fatigue
for,
definitely comes with it. Like fatigue is something that definitely like develops with it. That's something like when I was trying to understand like what I was experiencing also, like I would sleep for hours and
mhm,
out and still feel restless. Like
right,
still feel this heaviness and like no amount of rest would make me feel energized.
right. And I know how I guess we can talk about how just like anxiety and depression affects all of our relationships. I know from going from that relationship that kind of, I won't completely blame that on somebody else because I allowed myself to still be in the mess that was going on. But it
Yeah,
definitely like started off me just being very anxious and very defensive when it came to intimate relationships with guys. I was
yeah.
just like, you say something to me and I think it's smart, I'm going to say something rude back to you like instantly. And I found myself in the intimate relationship that I'm in now, having to unlearn so many things because I equated just men in general that you have to be defensive. You have to like protect yourself. You have to, be on your toes. You have to know what's going on. And I had to unlearn so many things like everybody's not the same. Like different people care differently. When people show that they care and show that they love you and show that they support you, pay attention to that. Don't pay attention to like joking comments that may like strike you a different way because you're a little more sensitive.
Yeah, that's just like what you're saying is like learning your love language and the love languages of the people that are around you,
Oh yeah.
because it's not just something that applies to romantic relationships. It really learning other people's love languages really helps us like navigate,
Oh
like
yeah.
especially the people that we care about. um like you were talking about intimate relationships, I feel like it took me 10 years to really like be in something that's, someone that understands like the
Yeah.
things that I experience, and also like learning to communicate those things with that person, like I definitely trials and tribulations with, friendship,
Oh yeah.
people that are not friends anymore because of, like things that you didn't understand then, but then like later on you learn to understand now. Intimate relationships of like people not understanding like when you are, are depressed. I remember like, losing people that were really close to me, and like,
Yeah.
like having a partner that never experienced any kind of loss in life, and it was just like not really being empathetic to those things, and like that stuff like really impacted me.
Oh
Like
yeah.
you just learn that like some people are selfish, and like that is okay. But if that's something that, like, like you, especially like dealing with this, like you really need to have a partner that is so supportive
Oh
of
yeah.
your mental health. Like having partners that you are understanding to their mental health, and they are understanding to your mental health, is the most important thing in life. That is not something that you can hide. That is not something that, like you can just like put under a rug. Like that is something that is very important, because that is a part of you, and that is important. Every part of you is important.
Right.
and it needs to be cherished, and it needs to be loved, and it needs to be accepted. So it's something that really like takes time, and like really like, especially like I would say if a person, you know, like I felt like I wasn't going to find a person that was, like I felt like, like I'm going to be single forever. Like I felt that way for a very long time because I just
Yeah.
went through so many like horrible like situations and relationships to people like, not being understanding to
Oh
me,
yeah.
or like not caring for, like um being a highly sensitive person as well, like for people not really understanding, like, like this is just Sephora as she is,
Right.
or like me not understanding the other person and it's just not meshing. Like
Yeah.
you can care for people and it not mesh. And I feel like when we go through pain, we really have to process that. Like that's
Yeah.
something that we have to process. Um like you said that like not everyone cares the same. Like my grandmother told me that, and that's like really like helped me to like open up a lot more, because it was
Mhm.
something that I was scared of. Like, oh, I deal with depression and I deal with anxiety. Like, what is this person gonna think of me? Like what are
Oh
these
yeah.
people gonna think of me? It really like when I didn't know what it was, it really strained my relationship with like my mom.
Yeah.
And like I'm an only child, so um like she's the parent that I have, and it's really hard to like, like just have these outbursts of like, like upsetting things, and like her not really understanding like who I am. And then it's like you also have to navigate with other people's emotions and how they view things, and they may not be working on themselves, so you
Yeah.
have to learn to be the bigger person for both people,
Yeah.
because not everyone is getting the help that they need, because like not everybody believes in therapy or believes in like talking about like your emotions and
Yeah.
your mental state. Like a lot of people keep it in. I kept it in for probably the first half of my life. Like I kept
Mhm.
everything in bottled up, and is there still things that I do still keep bottled up, because it's fear. Like
Right.
when you bottle up things, it comes from fear. Like that's what it stems from, because it's like, what are the people that I love, what are they going to think about me, what are these people going to think about me? And
Oh
it's
yeah.
like when you learn that that's not important, it's important to own who you are, and like be transparent about it, then things get a lot smoother.
Oh yeah. When you talk about like fear being kind of like the be all of what you open up about and what you don't. I know for me in general, I've never really opened up. Like in my family, I've never been a big talker. With my friends, I've never been a big talker. And I think when it came to my friends in college, and that whole story of kind of like losing all of my friends at the same time, a lot of it, like I may have at that time been angry and kind of put it back on them, but a lot of it was on me and just my lack of sharing. And I definitely understand now to be in, like, I was in a friend group of like 6, 7 girls,
Mm-hmm.
and to be in a friend group that large of girls who do share like how they're feeling, how dating is going, how life is going. And for me to be the one that does not share, does not talk about, what's going on, how's dating this person or how's dating that person, I was just like, it's fine. But in my head, it was like, I want to talk to somebody. Like, I want to tell you guys everything, but I was so scared of, what are you going to think about when I tell you this? How are you going to look at me differently? And then when it comes to having like a platform, like a podcast and like a YouTube channel, it's even more scary because now anybody in my family can see it.
Strangers.
Strangers can see it. So I know like my mom listens and watches videos, and other people in my family, she said, will listen. And for me, I know they listen because they care and they love me and they just want to support. But for me, that's very scary for me. Like,
that was it for
I'm
me
trying
too.
not to be emotional. I try not to be
Yeah,
emotional now, but like it's terrifying just to think
yeah,
about what people who are close to you will feel about your opinions and your ideas and
yeah.
the way you talk and what you talk about. It's like it's an everyday fear for me, but I feel like this platform is the best way for me to overcome that fear. Kind of like doing it in front of everybody, because this is like episode 27. Like, oh, she's got it by now. Like, this is terrifying for me even now. Like sitting here, I'm like shaking. I'm trying not to like be emotional because I don't open up. And
Yeah.
that's been like a major issue of me just not feeling like I really had someone to understand, no matter good or bad, what I was thinking. I've always
I
been very,
love that you spoke about that because when I started YouTube and doing videos, I've always been such a creative person. I learned how
mhm,
to edit videos like a really young age. I learned how to navigate through all of these things. Like technology was always something that was like always sparked my interest.
mhm.
Um, Everyone told me like you should start a YouTube, and this is like from like YouTube started like when I was much younger, when I was like probably middle school, like things like that. And it was just like I am such like a shy person. Like so like my family started following me on Instagram. I had like Instagram and then watch my videos of me like talking about like dealing with depression, and like no one knew. Like no one knew, and it was something that like made me super emotional. And it's really like I challenged myself because I wanted to become more open. I wanted
Yeah.
to really like it was so hard for me like going on interviews, like I would cry because I'm like I feel this lack of self-confidence
Yeah.
in myself. It's terrifying. Like I'm terrified I start shaking. The same thing that like you're talking about, like even like around family, like sometimes it's like, do I really want to see this person right now? Like I'm one of those people, like I just like I don't feel comfortable because it's like, and then I had like acne and stuff like that. And then it's just like that also like like weighs on your emotional
Oh,
state,
yeah.
like dealing with like like especially as a woman, like when I was younger, like not having like boobs or like like just being slender, and like what you see in like the media is completely different
Right.
from what you are. So you're like, is there something wrong with me? Like like just looking at self images and things like that is just like I'm scared to be myself and show the world who I am.
Oh,
So it's
yeah.
like everyone's judging me. Like I feel like everyone's judging me. I feel like super scared about so many different things. And like I used to be scared to talk to my mom and grandma and grandfather about like so many things. Like I'm scared to like be who I am, like to, like I feel depressed. So it's like, like people think of it as laziness or, like why do you procrastinate? Procrastinate comes from anxiety. I don't care what
Right.
anyone says. Like people procrastinate because, like they just have so much going on.
Yeah.
Like they have so much going on, and it's like, oh my god, I don't know what to do. Like I don't know how to process this. I don't know what to do. And then it's like you just make yourself even more anxious, like working through that procrastination, because it's like, oh my god, now I'm on a time restraint.
Yeah.
Like it's something that's really like has to be taken into account. Like like we do these things to overcome these hurdles and to
Yeah.
really help us navigate through these emotions,
Yeah.
like these emotions and these tendencies. Yeah.
It's it's like you want to it's like you want to be yourself because at the end of the day, you know everything that you offer, you know who you are, and you know that um everything about you is like positive, uplifting, and different things like that. But then you always worry, it was like, well, what if I say the wrong thing? What if I make the
Hmm.
wrong face? What if I miss something or like stutter on my word? And it's hard. Those things are the toughest for me because I don't know why, but I guess I do know why. I've picked like my careers in marketing. So I'm talking to clients, I'm working with brands, I'm having to sell them on what we want to do for them. And those things are so terrifying for me. I know I'm at a marketing agency and I'm in like a sales role. So on my first pitch to a client, before we went into the pitch, we were practicing. I was stuttering over my words. I wasn't getting things right. I had like the VP, two directors, and a creative director with me. And I was just like pretty much a shit show outside of presenting. And I was like, I'll be fine. I just need a second. And when we get inside, I'll be fine. As soon as it was my turn to pitch to the client in front of everybody, I said everything right. I made them laugh, made them happy. But it's always something about, I guess it's
Preparing
that,
yourself.
yeah, preparing yourself. And my voice will get shaky, my hands will shake. And then when it's actually time to like get on stage, I'm fine. It was the same thing like going through high school and dancing and being on stage in front of like your peers and your parents. I would be terrified, but then I would do the dance fine. And now it's kind of like I've picked a career that's an outward facing career. I've picked creating something for myself, which is very outward, showing yourself, talking to people you have no idea who they are, where they're from, how they feel about you. I feel like it's because like God knows who I am and he knows how outgoing I'm supposed to be. But for me, I still battle with like, well, why have I always been so sensitive? Why have I always been so
Can I
quiet?
can
Yeah.
I say something? You are exactly who you're supposed to be. God created you to be exactly who you're supposed to be. Like, don't feel that, like, and that's something that I battled with too. Like, I'm supposed to be this way. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then this is as me getting older, it's like, I am who I am. Everything that you do in your life is to improve who you are.
Yeah.
But this is your personality, this is how you are, and you will learn to navigate through that. You're not to Don't look at compare yourself to anybody or like, oh, I should be this way or I
Yeah.
should be that way. No, you are who you are. You own
Right.
who you are. You're going to navigate through that and God is going to help you through that. That's
Yeah. I feel like my fear has been what's stopping me. And I just know like the fear is the devil. You got to get over
Yeah,
that.
fear is not of God. Fear is not of God. I say that when I'm in fear, I say that fear is not of God.
Yeah.
Fear is not of God. God did not give us fear.
Right.
And that's another thing too, like, you know, like having a relationship with God but also dealing with these things, and it's like, like, oh, just pray it away. Prayer without works is dead.
It's dead.
You have to do your part. You have to do your part. And God wants you to help yourself also. Like, you have to do the things to help yourself grow,
Oh, yeah.
to help yourself to be better, because it's not God is not a genie.
Right.
God is not a genie. Oh, if I pray about it, it's gonna go away. And then it was like, you're not doing anything to better yourself. Like,
Right.
you have to do your part.
And I feel like for me, I feel like with creating this, I do feel like at peace when I'm like working on it, when I'm doing this like podcast right now, I feel at peace. So it's kind of like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And at the same time, to your point, it's like at episode 27, this is my work. This is like
Yes.
overcoming those fears. This is like opening yourself up and talking about things with whomever wants to listen. And it goes back to something you said earlier about just kind of like outside of all of this, having somebody to talk to, having somebody who um, understands you. And I think it comes to like our point about knowing the right people to share with. A lot of
Yes.
times I felt like this can't be the right person to share with because there's something like in my stomach being like, shut your mouth, like shut up, don't say anything.
Yeah.
And it's
Your gut is really like, your
right,
gut is, you should always listen to your gut. Like,
right,
you should always listen. Like, your gut tells you all that you need to know before you know it. Like, if you feel extreme fear and anxiety for something, then it's most likely like, like, you should always push yourself out of your comfort zone. That is something that I do
yeah,
off, like, but if it's something that you are extremely fearful of telling a person because you're afraid of them not speaking to you or whatever the case is, like, then, like, you should be like, like, I'm having this feeling, like, God gives you that feeling for a reason,
yeah,
like, to help you, like, like, maybe this is not the right time for me to do this,
yeah.
like, yeah.
And I'm learning now with just wanting to put myself out there more and wanting to um I'm at the I'm at an age where it's like I could be friends with anybody, but I want to be like I want to have like intimate
Meaningful,
relationships, right?
meaningful,
Meaningful
genuine.
relationships. Right, people that
Yeah.
I can like talk to about anything and I know in their heart they're genuine and I'm genuine, so we just match already. And I feel like it's so important, like with dealing with anxiety and depression, just to know that you're like not alone, but also knowing, who your ally is and who is
Yeah.
just here to know that something maybe negative is going on.
Yeah. It's very, very important that, like, you understand who to share with. Like,
Yeah,
you understand, like, because there's people that I've told that I'm fine, and it's like,
not fine.
I'm not fine, but it's like, okay, like, it's like they don't really know you, or they don't really,
Yeah.
I guess, understand how to, like, navigate through those feelings and
Hmm.
things like that. A lot of people aren't educated when it comes to mental health. Like, that's
True.
just the reality of, like, dealing with so many different people's emotions and mental states and thoughts is, like, not everyone understands that. And that's perfectly
Right.
fine. It's about understanding, like, what, this is okay that this person doesn't understand me, and knowing when to walk away from that. And that's like
Right.
friendships and things like that. And, like, it's very important to really, like, be kind to yourself,
Oh
and
yeah.
when, like, not beat yourself up about if it's time to, like, walk away from something, or, like, walk away from those friendships, or, like, or, like, you're trying to teach somebody, like, I'm going through this and I need you to be like this, or,
Yeah.
like, to just be understanding to what I'm doing. And if they can't offer that to you, it's understanding, like, what, well, this is something that I can't share with you. Like, this is a part of me that, like, I separate myself from. And then it's like, if I can be my whole complete self with you, then it's like, slowly, like, like, you outgrow that relationship,
Oh
or,
yeah.
yep,
I feel like, and now it's like if I don't feel like I can completely be myself and tell you what's going on in my head, regardless if you understand or not, I'm just kind of like, we'll throw this whole friendship away and we'll find
yeah,
somebody else, because it's kind of
yeah,
like you want that like well-rounded, you can be yourself. And when you're not feeling like yourself, that same person is there for you.
yep.
It's kind of like so important. So another thing that I'm sure we both know, and especially from the content that you put out and with Sephora's counter, how important it is to be kind to yourself, no matter what you're going through. So, what are some things that you try to always remember when you may be feeling down, or just kind of like things that you tell yourself on a day to day basis to keep going on that upward slope to where you want to be?
So, what something that I've learned over the years is that everything passes.
Yeah.
Everything. So I treat things like waves. Like, when I'm feeling an emotion, I don't try to suppress it anymore like I did in the past. I allow myself to feel what I'm feeling, allow it to ride that wave, just like surfing. You ride that wave and, like it will pass. And then you can really, get back to where you were. Life is never a straight
Yeah.
line. Like it's trials, tribulations, good moments, bad moments. But it's really learning to not suppress the bad, because then it becomes a tsunami. Like that's
Yeah.
something that like it just keeps going back and back and back and back and back. And then when it crashes, it's like you don't know, like you're a disaster. So what I tell myself is that this is going to pass. Because especially like kind of like during quarantine, how we had to like be forced to like
Yeah.
not really have the freedom of going certain places that would help us like wind down, or
Yeah.
like it's something that like you have to try to learn to navigate through. Like, okay, like I feel this way, I feel kind of down and like unmotivated to do anything, and it's just like I'm so hard on myself that I'm not being as productive as I would like to, because it's
Yeah.
like just being stuck in the house and not being able to like do certain activities or go certain places, and this being something, a whole new experience for all of us.
Yeah.
um it's something that like I had to apply the same thing that I would apply, like if I feel like I'm going down a slope that I feel really horrible. So it's like, like this is not permanent. This is, everything passes.
Yeah. I
So that's
love what
something
you
that,
said. I love what you said about feel like feeling like being in the way that you feel instead of like trying to suppress it and keep going. I know for me personally, like when I'm upset or when I'm feeling any type of way, I try to push through it and try to just ignore it and be like, okay, we can't deal with that right now. We got to focus on this. But I
yeah,
love what you said because it just makes me understand more of like, yes, everything passes, but does it really pass if you don't address how you feel? And I think that's something that I need to definitely implement in my life, to just not feel away and be like, it'll go away. We're just going to keep moving, but actually really assessing, why do I feel this way? What made me feel this way? Is it something that I can do? Is it something that needs to be removed from my life? So I love what you said on there. What are some ways that another big thing with, I feel like people in general, no matter what you may go through, we have to learn more ways to be kind to ourselves and really
yeah,
figure out how does my mind and my body best want to be taken care of? Because what you said about like we can't go anywhere, we're in our house all day. I feel like for me, when I for the past like maybe 2 years, I've been um just being more cautious, not being more cautious. I've been focusing on my personal growth, and that being like mentally, physically, and spiritually. And I've noticed from when we went on quarantine, before I went to the gym a couple times of the week. So if I was having like a bad day, going to the gym made me feel better. Or and being on quarantine for the first like 3 months, excuse me, I was very like anxious, very like on edge, very like I don't want to do anything. I don't want to talk to anybody. So for me, because I know everybody's not like this, but when I'm able to focus on something, if it's like going to yoga or working out, that helps me just feel better in general. not because, oh, you're trying to lose weight, so we're just working out. But there's something about when I have an hour to do a workout, I'm not thinking about anything else because I'm trying to like not pass out in this workout. And
Yeah.
that for me, it helps my anxiety so much when I'm focused on something else that doesn't have anything to do with what's going on in my mind. And after the workout, it's like, what was the problem before? Like, what were we trying to figure out? That's one way I've learned that definitely helps my anxiety and definitely helps me uh, kind of like get rid of that fear. What are some things that or ways that you like take care of yourself and makes you feel better throughout life?
Um, well, music definitely. Like,
Yeah.
music definitely helps me like really to unwind and things like
Hmm.
that. Um, Eating a good comforting meal, like,
Hmm.
yeah, and like really like I feel my best when I'm taking care of my health, meaning
Yeah.
like um eating things that, like I'm being kind to my body.
Yeah.
So, like eating things that are good for me, like instead of like how can I say this? Like us like snacks. Like now I started like snacking on dry fruit. Like
Hmm.
and it's become my favorite thing instead of
Yeah.
like eating cake or eating ice cream or cupcake. And then like now I opted out for dairy free like frozen like ice cream like and I'm like
Hmm.
obsessed now. So I try to be healthy because like I'm like a person that like eats a lot when I'm like stressed out.
Me too.
Like I'll eat a lot or I won't eat at all. Like it's either or. It's like I'll eat a lot or I won't eat at all. And now I'm just learning like if I'm stressed, like I'm gonna eat something better. Like
Hmm.
if I want something, I'll make a salad. Like
Hmm.
I'll do those things. So yeah, that's really what I do. Or I love sitting by water. Like
Oh
sitting by the
yeah.
water is something that's very calming and soothing to me. Um, that is something that really, really helps me like really just stay balanced
Yeah.
and like just helps me like release um whatever needs to be released.
Yeah. And I definitely like everything that we're both saying are just like all the ways that we attribute to our personal like self-love. And like we're both talking about how like you saying sitting by the water or working out or listening to music, all of these things kind of take away the fear or the negative thoughts that we may be having. So it kind of hones in on just like how important self love and self care really is to becoming who God intended us to be, like outside of the things that are not for us and not made for us. But it just kind of like shows the importance of taking care of yourself and taking time for yourself to do something that you want to do to
And
make
learn who
yourself
you
feel better.
are and
Right.
learn who you are because I think that's very important. Like we were never made to fit in. Like we're
Right.
made to stand out, to be ourselves. Like
Hmm.
you are, that's why I said you are who God intended you to be. You're not made to, I'm a firm believer of that because I
Yeah.
try to fit in with so many different things like, oh, I should be doing this. Oh, I should have did this. I should have finished this at this point in time. And it's never
Uh-huh.
you against other people unless you're in a sport. Like
Yeah.
it's you against yourself.
Yeah.
Like life is definitely a marathon. Like it's not a race. There's no like you're not going anywhere fast. It's like always at your pace. Like they are things that you have certain time limits on, but like it's always for the betterment of your life.
Right. I feel like what you said about life not being a competition. I feel like growing up, especially as girls, we see, to your point earlier about us looking one way and what we see on TV or on social media something completely different. And then we start to have these thoughts, and then we're in high school where none of us know what we're doing or who we want to be, but we're trying to fit certain molds that the majority of the kids think is cool or normal. And that kind of sparks some type of competition in women, in boys too, I feel like.
Yeah,
But
definitely, and men deal with it too.
oh yeah. But your point of just knowing, like when you genuinely know that life is not about that, and it's more so about who you were 5 years ago and making sure that person is 5 years plus more down the line than you used to be. I feel like that takes a huge pressure off your shoulders for one. And then you notice, like, okay, this isn't about other people, it's about me bettering myself. And then you constantly hone in on, how can I better myself today? How can I take care of myself better today? How can I feel better today? I think those are like beautiful moments when people just realize, like, it's not about them, it's about me. The Get Your Life segment, where we share one thing in our journey that's going well, and then one thing that we're still struggling with. So I'll start with okay, so I guess we can start on what's going well. One thing for me when it comes to getting over my anxiety, it would have to be like holding myself accountable, especially with like Young Monarchs being the way that I am stepping out of my comfort zone, and the way that I am like kind of like getting rid of fear in my heart for different things. It's going well, just knowing like I have to record, I have to put a video out. And even though those things, I'm a person, so I can stop doing all of that. But just knowing that I set a goal for myself, and every day I want to work towards it, because I do see like the visions that God gives me on who I can become and what I'm meant to do with everything that He's given me, is definitely going well in my journey. What's one thing in your journey that's going well so far?
Okay, what's going well so far in mine is I am very transparent with my emotions now.
Mhm.
Like, that's something that I always bottled up. So I'm really proud about, like, this impacted me this way, so I'm able to communicate those things.
Mhm.
Um, I wish I can hold, like, I definitely deal with kind of stretching myself too thin and being involved in way too many things. I'm in school now. I'm
Mhm.
in a program now that requires, like a lot of my time, and then like school be done for like 2 weeks, and then I go back into like my fall semester. But I really need to start being more consistent with the things that help me grow more.
Yeah.
So like that's something that I want to hold myself accountable for. But I'm very happy with my transparency of how I feel or my mental state and things like that, and knowing when it's time to really like reach out and gathering a resource and really like
Yeah.
helping myself. Yeah.
I know. So one thing that I'm still struggling with um would still be kind of opening up, like thinking about, especially on a platform and coming up with ideas and things I want to talk about. I still struggle with like, oh, well, what if I like tell them how I really feel about this? Like, how's that gonna end up? So that's something I'm still struggling with, but it's also just me knowing like it's not about what other people think. Like it's more so about me saying, what's on my heart, me like just really living for myself and for who I am. So that's
Hmm.
still one thing that I can say I'm still kind of struggling with.
It's good to acknowledge, you know, like the good and bad. Like that's what I've learned is like acknowledging, you know, like, you know, your wins and your losses.
Yeah.
Like that is so important. Like so important. Like now I'm like, you know, I've come this far in this aspect, but like these are places that I need to work on.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah.
So for our motivational tea, do you have like a story time where you kind of pulled a boss move, or are there some like motivational words you want to share with the gals for their week?
Yeah, I'll share some motivational words. What I want to say is that, you know, like you were made you for for a purpose. Like everyone is on this earth for a purpose. It's great when you try to learn who you are so you can learn what that purpose is.
Yeah.
Do not look at others to make you feel you know, like you're not doing enough in your life.
Mm-hmm.
As long as, you know, like you're doing the necessary work on yourself to push forward, you are doing the best that you can. And you need to acknowledge that. Like, don't be hard on yourself because, you
Yeah.
know, like when you are too hard on yourself, you you tend to not be grateful for your journey.
Right.
And you know, like you you're just so focused on where the areas where you lack, and those will eventually be filled. As long as you are grateful for where you are in your journey, you acknowledge who you are, and you know, like you gather yourself all the time to, you know, like this is who I am. I am a human being. I am not, you know, like acknowledge that you're a human. Acknowledge
Yeah.
that, you know, like you are not a robot. You can just keep going and going and going and going and going, you know. You too have to rest because God rested on the seventh day. Like you have to, if something is telling you that you need to, you know, this is not the right time, like you need to really like sit down and just think about stuff. Like something will come to you as you really take that time to just process all that's going on in life.
Yeah. I think that's amazing because, like you said, I was just like constantly going, especially women, especially young women who are told like your 20s are for like, busting ass and getting exactly where you want to be. We have to remember like we are people and we
Mm-hmm.
need to relax and we need to listen to ourselves and listen to our bodies when our body's telling us to relax or telling us like, hey, it's not time for this or that. um but I definitely wanted to take this moment in the podcast and just kind of let people know like where they can find you, maybe if you have anything coming with any of your platforms that you want to talk about, where people can find you and stuff like that.
Okay, so my personal Instagram is I am Sephora Rose, and my Instagram for Sephora's Counter is at Sephora's Counter. I have like a lot of good topics that will be coming up in the next coming weeks on my website. They're in the works. Um, I haven't been very active on the website as I would want it to be because school and just trying to navigate through whatever's going on and what was going on
Yeah.
in the world. And I also have aromatherapy products that will, you know, that are also good for the mind and the body that will be releasing soon. I just want to make everything perfect.
Right.
When it comes to, you know, like putting something out there. Um, because that's my baby, you know, like I want to make sure it's something that, you know,
Yeah.
like not only can be helpful for me, but be helpful for others because I always want to just be a resource for others.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
And your website, sephorascounter.com, right?
Yes.
I do love the articles that you have on there now. So people
Thank you
can
so much.
definitely like check it out. get on your email list, do all that stuff
Yes.
now. And definitely, like you said, Sephora's Counter and I Am Sephora's Rose. Everything will be linked in like Young Monarchs social media and even on my personal page when I share it. But I was super excited that we got to record this
I'm
episode.
so happy that we finally got to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been fun because I know like so many people, so many girls don't like to talk about the things that they go through, but just kind
Yeah.
of like having someone who understands and who can help you like think through things is so important. So I was super excited we get to do this.
Yeah, same.
Oh yeah. I wanted to thank you again for doing this episode and everybody listening. If anybody has their own stories they want to share, or if you even have questions for Sephora, definitely like reach out to her on her website or any of her platforms. But thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll talk to you guys next week.